So the internet is in flames again because Ubisoft has finally released their Assassin's Creed Shadows trailer for their new video game based in Japan. And it is not being received well, both by the West or by Japan. There are people being critical of this game across the board. Everything related to this game is being ratioed. In all facets of the internet, you will see it for yourself if you even look this game up. And I even have the trailer behind me that is sitting at 216,000 likes and 313,000 dislikes. It's being ratioed. Now, it's not the only video being ratioed that has Assassin's Creed Shadows in the title. Now, of course, this trailer has sparked a bunch of controversy because the main protagonist is black. A lot of people feel like this is cultural appropriation and Ubisoft taking an opportunity to try and score some ESG points for the DEI narrative. You know, diversity, equity, and inclusion usually at the expense of white people. This is not something that is unexpected when it comes to Ubisoft because of the fact that Ubisoft's logo is smack dab on the front page of sweetbabyinc.com. So a lot of people are skeptical about this game as well, and they have plenty of reason for it, myself included, which I'm going to be sharing with you guys in this video. But you guys have to see it for yourself. The samurai in question, his name is Yasuke. This is an actual figure in history. Now in this trailer, he's wearing hulking samurai armor. He's being gawked at by a bunch of Japanese children and winking at them for some reason as this girl boss character, which I will prove she's a girl boss in just a second, walks past him smiling. Now in the trailer, she is kicking a bunch of butt and this dude is just throwing people through doorways, beating them to death with giant maces. I mean, this guy is clearly skilled and he outmatches a lot of Japanese people in this game. Yes, the West is not happy with this. They are ratioing pretty much every single trailer, and the Japanese are also speaking up about this. And there's a war being waged on Wikipedia as well, which we're going to get into in just a second, but you have to see the ratio on this interview trailer too. 26,000 likes to 49,000 dislikes. Yep, it got owned. It got pwned by people. All of the comments are saying Ubi has balls of steel for asking people to pre-order their game without showing any gameplay. And that is actually the truth. There is zero gameplay in these trailers. All they're doing is talking about the characters and then showing us the usual Ubisoft cutscene that looks really great, but then the gameplay usually does not reflect that. This is something that we saw with Star Wars Outlaws, with the gameplay looking just as clunky as old Ubisoft games. On top of the fact that the main character looks super masculine and chiseled in many parts of the game. I personally am not interested in playing this. I have no interest in playing Ubisoft games knowing that they've worked with Sweet Baby Inc. and that they're trying to push a bunch of nonsense. The person who is writing this game also does not paint a positive picture for me with Assassin's Creed Shadows, most especially because I was able to connect that lead writer's personality with this girl boss character's personality in this game. If you see right here in this clip of an interview that actually came out right after the trailer, go figure, they're talking about the two main characters and what their personalities are like. And this is the first thing that you hear about Naue, who's very intense and passionate, as you can see in this clip. So listen to what this lady says, and then we'll talk about it.
Naue, who's very intense and passionate and determined woman who is very set on her goals. She's kind of got her heart on her sleeve, and she'll say what she feels in the heat of the moment. And this intensity that she brings as a shinobi, but that she also brings to her relationship. In this balance.
So she's very intense and passionate and wears her emotions on her sleeves and speaks her mind. A very determined woman. It's just the same girl boss narrative that I see a bunch of other female characters taking on as of late. And it completely kills my interest in the game, because if that's the Japanese protagonist that we're going to get, and it just turns out to be another Ubisoft girl boss, I think it's going to be a disaster. And we're not even touching on the Yasuke stuff, which portrays a very powerful and seasoned samurai who's been in a ton of battles, knows a bunch of lords, and does a bunch of assassin work. And this has sparked online controversy. Now, why is that? Quite a few Japanese people, and I'm not speaking for a bunch of them, I'm just saying that a lot of them have come out and started talking about this, saying that they're displeased with the direction of this game, saying that they feel that they're being culturally appropriated, that the West is pushing their ideology in their market, and they feel insulted. The West isn't happy with this either, because if you see this photo from Learning the Law, and he's actually been covering a lot of this, especially the Wikipedia stuff, you will see the ratios across the board for pretty much every Assassin's Creed video from Ubisoft that talks about it. The Ubisoft Japan video, that one got ratioed almost to oblivion. 2.3 thousand to 18,000 dislikes. This one got 25k to 48k. And of course, the original we watched, 214k to 303k. And then one at the bottom, 5.6 to 15k. Japan has also expressed their displeasure at this. We'll get to that in just a second, but I wanted to read something to you guys really quick because this is from the Ubisoft page itself. It says, players will experience the intertwined stories of Naoe, an adept shinobi assassin from the Iga province, and Yasuke, the powerful samurai of historical legend. So they're calling Yasuke the legendary samurai, the powerful samurai of historical legend. And yeah, they're overpricing their game. What a big surprise. It actually appears that they're pushing their consumers to a subscription model because they significantly cheapen the deal and they're letting them do a $17.99 a month thing for Ubisoft Plus, and then they get everything included, all the pre-order content, the ultimate pack, etc., etc. And all you have to do is pay $18 a month because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to push people away from physical media, guiding them towards a you will own nothing and be happy model. And they also overprice all of these versions of the game, 109 to 129, very similar to Star Wars Outlaws. And they haven't even shown anybody gameplay, of course. So we haven't even seen how the game looks or plays. We only see the cutscenes and they're like, well, hope you guys are ready to pre-order. Yeah, I don't think so, Ubisoft. Nice try, though. I already saw the lead writer and I'm not impressed. In fact, I'm a bit worried for how the story is going to be received by the Japanese and by the West when this game actually releases. Because it says right here that the lead writer's name is Alyssa. Now, again, I need to stress that I do not condone harassing these individuals, so please do not harass and hunt these people down. I think it's more important that we know what these people are doing in these companies and what kind of games they're making, but I do not condone going and harassing people, sending death threats, or attacking them with a bunch of meme messages. That's not what we're about here. We're all about voting with our wallets and just being made aware of these things so that we can make informed financial decisions. But her profile says, behaving as the wind behaves. It says in highlight, she, her, it's a red flag. And that's the lead writer on Assassin's Creed Shadows. She looks really young too, but she's writing an entire Assassin's Creed video game. So kudos to her, but I'm pretty worried about the story, especially since they've gotten so much wrong about Yasuke. And this is according to the Japanese, because if you see this Forbes article from Ollie Barter, he wrote that Japanese fans are puzzled that Yasuke is in Assassin's Creed Shadows. So it says the new trailer for Assassin's Creed Shadows has dropped, and this time it's set in feudal Japan, but some Japanese gamers are puzzled that it includes Yasuke. Yasuke was an actual historical figure that lived in Japan during the 16th century and was most likely of African origin. He would have also been around during the time period that this game is set. However, almost nothing is really known about Yasuke, which in part means he's a great narrative blank slate to work with, but that isn't also without its pitfalls. Well, usually Assassin's Creed games, when they're set in a certain location, they usually pick someone who is naturally from that area and bases an entire Assassin's game around them, and this will be the first time in which they placed an outsider as the protagonist in a setting. And this is what's happening in feudal Japan. We're not getting a Japanese main character except for the female shinobi character, who it looks in every way, shape, and form like a girl boss that is going to annoy the players, rather than giving us a male samurai slash shinobi dude. No, they want to give that role to a black samurai that has almost no historical significance. There's a lot of pointlessness to his role in this game. But he does point out that you see gamers have been waiting for Assassin's Creed to come to Japan for years now. Yes, almost 20 years. They actually teased that it would take place in other countries like Japan back in 2007 with the ending of the first Assassin's Creed, with Desmond discovering a piece of Eden in the East. There's no question that Sweet Baby Inc. has worked with Ubisoft and that Ubisoft is pushing DEI in their video games, and it's just a connection that people have made, and it would make sense because why else would they pick a black foreigner as their main character instead of just picking a male Japanese protagonist? And it's because they want to push a message. It's very obvious, though people are going to defend it and they're going to attack us for even questioning it in the first place. And that's what's happening a lot. People who are questioning it are being attacked, even when Japanese people are saying that they don't like where it's going. He says the issue here, and one that Japanese gamers are pointing out in the trailer for the game and elsewhere online, is that Assassin's Creed is a series about retaining a degree of fidelity to historical historical events, that in other games in the series, people of that locale and period were consistent with history and their varying host cultures. So yes, I think it's very fair to point out that that's why people are upset. That's why a lot of people are upset. Not everybody, but it is one of the biggest things that people are upset about because one, yes, it looks like cultural appropriation. It looks like they're trying to rewrite history as well. And it looks like they're trying to score ESG points. That's not our fault because that's something that Ubisoft has been trying to push for a while. And the people that they work with have been making it very clear to gamers that that's what they want to do as well. So it's not like this is a mystery. It's not something that we have to dig up like a conspiracy and prove that it's something that's happening because it really is happening. So there's no reason to be upset at people who think that this could actually be the case. And it very well may be. Now he says, in addition, a massive edit war has erupted over on Wikipedia about Yasuke himself, which isn't exactly helpful either. It also shows that this is clearly a contentious issue and one that people aren't happy about in terms of history being rewritten. Well, what kind of editing war are we talking about? Well, if you go on Wikipedia, you can see that a conversation is already taking place. This person says in yellow highlighter, I am in agreement with you. The revision of the Japanese people's history and culture to suit some weird fantasy is damaging to the integrity of WikiLeaks as a citable source, while also endangering the integrity and reliance of Western understanding of the history and culture of Japan and its people. The Japanese people and society take great pride in keeping full account of events and people within its history and also aims to help folks outside of Japanese culture to understand our history. The Japanese people and society do not wish to have its people, history, culture, and understandings to be sullied over Western social political agendas which mar the understanding of who we were and what we are today. Now, there are people arguing with this, and I'll show you why this argument is happening. So, the context. We're going to go over some of that context, but just so you guys understand, somebody has been going into Wikipedia and changing the history of Yasuke to more so reflect what Ubisoft has been saying about the characters. So, it looks like somebody's trying to rewrite history, and a lot of people are going to say, no, that's not true. The timing is just a coincidence, but it really has been on the day that people have been criticizing the direction of this game. And it's somebody who actually pays attention to the situation, and I'll show you exactly how. But in this argument over this article being changed, because what's been happening is this specific person has been going in and deleting people's corrections where they say, oh, well, it's important to note that Yasuke was not actually a samurai, he was a retainer, because that's a big argument about the samurai, is that he wasn't really a samurai, he was a retainer for an actual samurai. And there have been arguments saying, well, for some samurai, you had to be born into a noble family, you had to be raised from very young. And then other people say that being a samurai is more about living by its principles rather than being an expert combatant. Now, I looked up some of these facts myself, and I came across a couple of interesting things. One of them being on this website, Kimono Tea Ceremony, how did the samurai train? And it says, once you were born in the samurai family, you held a wooden sword in both hands before you have chopsticks and needed to practice sword fighting from early childhood. When you become 5 years old, you need to practice sword fighting with other children in the clan taught by sword masters or someone in your family members. The samurai kids were given real wakizashi around the age of 7 and sent to live in a sword master's house around the age of 9. Funny enough, I read another article that stated that samurai even before that time were more so horse archers. So they would ride on horseback and fire their arrows, and it would take years and years of training to be able to master that because it was very difficult to fire arrows on top of a moving horse. So samurai used to do something way different back then, but my point is that it takes years and years of training. And even if you're going to master the very philosophies of samurai without mastering the combat, it still takes years of discipline and mastery. That on top of the fact that you need to understand the nuance of the Japanese language. That being said, let's look at how many years Yasuke was in Japan. Oh, 3 years. Among those whose names have been ascertained, he is the earliest African to appear in Japanese historical records, but his confirmed period of stay in Japan was very short, about 3 years. Does that sound like samurai material to you? Even if he did get there at the beginning of the 3-year period and started training as soon as he got there, do you really think that he learned and understood the language at an adept level and then trained for that long and was able to become a samurai and then be a part of a few battles? In that argument on the Wikipedia page, it says a little bit below, it says, wrong, it is important to state that he was a retainer and not a samurai from the time he met Nobunaga, which was around 1581 happened from 1582 when Nobunaga committed seppuku. Chronologically, there are only 2 fights where Yasuke could have been, which were the Second Tensho Iga War, which we have 0 records of him being in, and the Hanoji incident. There is a record where he fought once. I put the quotes there because the recounting of it by Froe's report in the article doesn't even specify if it was even Yasuke who went to the Nijo castle to fight. Do you think that they would send Yasuke, who has only been in Japan for a couple of years, to a castle? And do you think that he would be successful in his fight? I mean, how long would he have had to train? You have to learn the Japanese language. You have to learn how to sword fight. You got to learn. And it takes a lot of time. But this guy mastered it in a couple of years, and then he was in a bunch of battles and won. That's the kind of picture that they're trying to paint Yasuke in. And that's what this apparent Wikipedia user is trying to do in changing history, rewriting it. I mean, it says right here 3 years. I mean, that debunks a bunch of arguments online. And that's why this is so funny, because this person is hell-bent on making sure that Wikipedia reflects that Yasuke could have indeed very likely been a samurai. No, it's not right that they outright say that he wasn't. But I mean, really, 3 years? You really think that the guy would be like, you're a samurai, and then that's it? He's got his legendary status, and then people could just make up whatever they want about Yasuke? I don't think so. Because it says on this other page, people.howstuffworks.com, training in martial arts began at a young age. Sons of wealthier families were sent to special academies where they were tutored in literature, the arts, and military skills. Sometimes it was even a rite of passage to be able to become a samurai. I'm not an expert on Japanese culture and history, but it's not like this stuff isn't a Google search away. You could do the basic amount of research and come to these conclusions yourself. And Learning the Law posted right here, one man is fighting a holy war against communist revisionists to prevent Yasuke from becoming progressive propaganda. Hundreds of editors are now attacking Wikipedia to alter history, ensuring that Assassin's Creed Shadows don't receive too many blows. This is better than paying $70 to Ubisoft. So yeah, they're fighting on Wikipedia over this article. They're all trying to change Yasuke's history. Either they're trying to mess it up or they're trying to fix it, but people are at odds. I never thought that I would see a Wikipedia war break out over a black samurai, but here we are, folks. It's happening, and it's happening right in front of our faces. He says Wikipedia is waging a war at this moment, changing the story of Yasuke so it can be suitable for modern audiences. Yikes. And he says this is a prime example of how video games are used as cultural weapons to erase the truth. So these are the photos showing what kind of changes were made. And this is the one that has been revised constantly, saying entering 1581, Vilignano decided to visit the capital as an envoy. So what people were trying to put in there was, it's important to note that there are no historical writings or evidence that Yasuke was considered a samurai. He was never given a fief or referred to as one in any writings. Most of our knowledge of his life comes from these messages written by missionaries and locals, and it says how he was in service of an Italian Jesuit missionary, and then he had been appointed the visitor of the Jesuit missions in the Indies. The guy who's messing with Wikipedia keeps removing that and keeping the original that doesn't have all of that important contextual information, because they're like, it's not really that important. And they're also saying that you don't need a source in order to be able to remove that and constantly revise it to reflect that he could indeed have been a samurai. Now, who is this person who is doing this? Well, Learning the Law says it's user Theozilla, who has successfully removed the section from Wikipedia detailing the lack of proof of Yasuke being a samurai. Editors argue that this action represents another form of revisionism in favor of big corporations. But guess what? Theozilla says you don't need a source in order to identify that guy as a samurai. And I think that people were calling this out because they saw it coming from a mile away. They said to impose Ubisoft's racist blackwashing of Japanese history in the upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows as though it were fact, when the real Yasuke was, at best, a retainer, not a full-fledged samurai. And the fact it's even open for debate shows just how much the global elite have us all by the gonads with their ESG, DEI, bridge, corporate culture, war grift. So people are calling this guy out because they feel that he's just revising it so that it can reflect false history and make it seem like this dude was just a full-fledged samurai. This backlash isn't coming out of nowhere. I mean, there are important reasons why people are upset and why they don't want to play this game. Would you like another reason why? From Learning the Law, once again, Ubisoft hired a specialist in Japanese gay literature to work with Assassin's Creed Shadows. She is an expert in gender studies investigating romantic relationships with adolescent boys. Wow! Oh my goodness. So if you read this, it says, talking to IGN, Sachi Schmidt-Hori, a professor of Japanese literature and culture working with Ubisoft on Assassin's Creed Shadows, says Yasuke has been featured in many creative writings and media. Academic appointments, associate professor of Japanese literature and culture. She says, I am interested in investigating how gender, sexuality, corporeality, and power are represented and negotiated in pre-17th century Japanese narratives and illustrations. Gee, I wonder why they hired her. She says, my first book, Tales of Idolized Boys, Male and Male Love in Medieval Japanese Narratives, is on medieval Chigo Monogatari, I believe that's what it's pronounced as, which often depict romantic relationships between Buddhist priests and adolescent boys. These tales challenge a host of normative and moral, I don't even know what it says after that, but yeah. This is the kind of stuff that gamers are paying attention to, and the more that they find out about this game, the less appealing that it looks. And people wonder why we're all upset. They're like, what kind of problem do you have with this? As if like they haven't been awake this entire time seeing what the gaming industry is slowly transforming into. But that Theozilla person, they're not stopping there. Yasuke, Ubisoft revisionist Theozilla, and friends are currently attempting to modify the list of foreign-born samurai in Japan on Wikipedia to include Yasuke. They are fiercely fighting to alter history despite being reverted multiple times. They already edited Yasuke website, so they're going onto other pages to make sure that Yasuke is included on actual samurai lists. Not that Wikipedia is the most reliable site in the world, but the fact that they are going so out of their way to change this stuff just shows how fearful they are of Ubisoft looking bad in this situation. I mean, why would you go so far out of your way to make sure important context is not put in there? Like, why else would you try to stop it and revert it multiple times unless this had some kind of emotional connection to you? And they're saying, well, you don't even need a source to change it back. It's just ridiculous. Do these people think that we're stupid? It's gotten so bad that they're actually calling him out. They're sending him messages on his own profile. Hi, Theozilla. I noticed that you have reverted to restore your preferred version of an article several times. The impulse to undo an edit you disagree with is understandable, but I wanted to make sure you're aware that the edit warning policy disallows repeated reversions even if they are justifiable. I don't think they're justifiable, but it says all editors are expected to discuss content disputes on article talk pages to try to reach consensus. That might have been what we saw a little bit of earlier. They were arguing about it and talking about it on their discussion page. If you are unable to agree, please use one of the dispute resolution options to seek input. So this guy was getting smoked by a bunch of people, and because he kept reverting it back to the article, he was basically abusing the functions of the website. He got called out. It's insane. But one question people are probably wondering is, why is it that this guy chose to do it on this day? Go back and change a bunch of history about Yasuke on the day that that video game trailer is released. Well, I think that I have an idea why that change came so quickly, because this person is probably chronically on Twitter. This is their Twitter page, and again, do not harass this person, but look, Theozilla, UCSC alumnus, on and off Berkeley City College student, currently working in education. I love all types of animation. Leftist, white, cis, bisexual, he/him. Oh, brother, the same thing you see on all of these people's pages who usually spout this BS. Don't be surprised that this guy, by the way, is retweeting all of the people that agree with his reasoning for changing the historical section of Yasuke on Wikipedia. That's all this guy's been doing all day, just retweeting people who agree with him. It's so obvious that this guy is paying attention to the negative backlash that Assassin's Creed Shadows is getting, and then took it upon himself to go into Wikipedia and change it a bunch of times when other people are trying to course correct. One thing that he retweeted said, "This might actually be one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen from racists, and that's saying a lot." And anybody who questions this game is apparently a racist, and Theozilla is okay with it, because this person said, people are now throwing around the Yasuke Wikipedia page saying that it states, despite modern depictions, Yasuke was not considered a full samurai. Thankfully, we can use Wikipedia's view history feature to look at the previous versions of the article. 3 years pretty much debunks a lot of these theories. And again, they're saying that people who cite this are racists, okay? Because this person says this might actually be one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen from racists, and that's saying a lot. So if you question Yasuke in Assassin's Creed Shadows, you're a racist. And guess who agrees with that? Theozilla, who has also been on Wikipedia changing history and changing people's revisions so that it can continue to reflect alignment with Ubisoft. So this person thinks that anybody who disagrees is racist, and that's probably why they're talking about racism on the Wikipedia argument that they're having, and why the Japanese have pushed back against that, because this person accused all of these people of spewing racist backlash, and then this person said, I am Japanese. You are claiming likely due to racist backlash, but many Japanese people are bothered by the cultural appropriation and historical revisionism perpetrated by Western people regarding this topic. Your offhand dismissal of our concern as racist backlash in itself feels very racist towards the Japanese. Now, guess what happened? People pushed back against that guy and said, well, you're probably not Japanese. You're probably just some white dude who's racist and wants to pretend so that, he's not looked down upon. But guess what? There are way more people who are critical about this that are coming straight out of Japan. Japanese reception from Ubisoft's latest video game Assassin's Creed Shadows. One Japanese user says, for the first time, I understood what cultural appropriation was. Very diverse neo-colonialist we have here, folks. So yeah, some of these comments that are translated will say, up until now, the main characters have been the original local races and ethnic groups, but why did they become different races when it comes to Japan? That's a great question. Now, these people are all Japanese. They've been translated to English. Yasuke, who is supposed to be a sword holder, enters the battlefield without permission, so Nobunaga-sama ends up holding a sword himself, which is ridiculous. This probably won't sell well in Japan. Probably not. Everyone has a simple question. Why did they use black people in Japanese culture? Good question. Probably to push DEI. I mean, it's pretty obvious. They're involved with Sweet Baby Inc. big time. And this person says, you should change your concept now. This is wrong in both Assassin's Creed and Japanese history. This person says it may have existed in real life, but when a foreigner like this appears in a historical drama-like world, it just seems like a gag. This sense of discomfort is like seeing a Japanese person appear at the Boston Tea Party. Why do they go out of their way to use black people even though it's set in Japan? If they wanted to use black people, they could just change the setting, but it's too mysterious. Yeah, again, they're doing this on purpose. I mean, it's quite blatant why they're doing it. If Yasuke had been made into something like a character who acts cool in front of the main character as a senior member of a cult on the continent, it wouldn't have been as bad as it was. This person said, up until now, the main characters have been the original local races and ethnic groups. If you release a work with a Japanese protagonist in the African setting in the future, I will forgive you. This person said, for the first time, I understood what cultural appropriation was. Yeah, the Japanese are pushing back. And guess what else? Redditors are apparently getting banned for mentioning that they want an Asian male Assassin's Creed protagonist rather than an Asian woman. So if you say that on Reddit, you're going to get banned from the page. That's not really surprising because Reddit is pretty much trash in my opinion. Hello, you have been permanently banned from participating in r/PS5 because your comment violates this community's rules. So I assume that's a big one because that's a PS5 subreddit. And that's in reference to this question right here. Any other Asian people disappointed that we don't get an Asian male main character? You can't say that. They will remove you and cancel you. And I think that that's what these people on Wikipedia are trying to do. They're trying to cancel the truth. They're trying to rewrite history because Ubisoft made an Assassin's Creed game, I guess. And if Yasuke is not looked at as a full-fledged samurai, then they can't get their full message across that black people were full-fledged samurai back in the day. And it's such a strange argument to die on the hill of. So many other reasons on top of that why people do not like this game, but apparently us having a problem with Yasuke and his portrayal in a Japanese setting video game, that's seen as a problem by them. We're not allowed to question that or else we're going to get canceled. We're going to get banned. We can't talk about it. But guess who can? People who agree with Ubisoft. And hey, at least they gave us a really nice letter at the end of all of this. Hey everyone, we wanted to share some early information on the upcoming launch of Assassin's Creed Shadows. Assassin's Creed Shadows will not require a mandatory connection at all times. That's so amazing. So how about we fix the prices, fix the main character, and while you're at it, stop trying to culturally appropriate and put black people in a Japanese video game because of some obscure character that you feel fits your narrative for pushing DEI and ESG in video games. Because people are tired of it, and now you have the West and Japan pushing back against you. I mean, their videos are being ratioed into oblivion. The perception of those games is ruined on social media. On YouTube, it's ruined. The entire situation, the entire experience right now of Assassin's Creed Creed Shadows is overwhelmingly negative, and gamers are speaking out. But I can almost guarantee you that Ubisoft is going to die on this hill, and when this game launches and not enough people buy it, and Ubisoft then again projects and calls a bunch of people racists and ists and phobes and whatnot, all we're going to be able to do in response is say, "We told you so." And that is all I've got for you guys in this video today. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you haven't had the chance to like it and share it with your friends, that would be awesome. And hey, if you're feeling ultra spicy, consider subscribing to my channel so that you're always up to date on what kind of thing I've got going on. I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Later. Meow meow.